So this is Menina Moca, a Stan Getz tune. It's not actually by Stan Getz. It's by, let's see here, Antonio Luis, I think his name is. Forgive me for not knowing who that is, but the tune was made famous by Stan Getz. This was actually brought to me by a student, and I love when students show me tunes that I've never heard of before, because I have to admit, I have never heard of this tune before that, and it's a really cool tune. And I'm guessing a lot of you are like me, teaching, and when you're teaching jazz, there's some tunes you get sick of, like Blue Bossa, Black Orpheus. I actually don't mind those tunes. I enjoy playing them, but it's nice to find other tunes in the same kind of vein, in the same style, that you can bring in so that for some variation. And this is a very good tune like that. So we're gonna learn this tune. I'm gonna show you the melody and the chords and soloing ideas. We're gonna talk about scales and what scales to use actually when there is a dominant chord in a minor tonality, which is a topic in and of itself. And we're gonna look at some Barry Harris stuff. We're gonna look at some of the hexatonic stuff I talked about in a lesson a few weeks back. And also, yeah, some symmetrical diminished stuff perhaps. Lots of stuff. So if that sounds interesting, let's get started. First, I'll just show you the chords. E minor, B7, E7 to A minor. Then we have a 2-5-1 to G and E minor, A minor, C7. So that's the A section. So it's an AABA form. Repeat. Second ending. Here's the B section. E7, A minor. F sharp 7. B7. Then melody. So I'm not playing the melody perhaps exactly as it's written on the page there, but you need to be able to kind of phrase in the style. So this is not a lesson on how to play authentic bossa nova or Brazilian guitar. I don't think I qualify for that kind of lesson, but anyway, at least have some idea of how to play in that style. So I like to use this app called Drum Genius, where they have really good loops, like a bossa nova. This is kind of a swing bossa, kind of a swung feel to it. And then just play along with it, kind of makes you phrase in a certain way. So I find that very helpful for developing kind of a good feel for this genre. There are, of course, so many different styles within the Brazilian genre. Like, there's so much to learn, but we're just learning a tune which is actually more of a jazz tune, right? All right, so let's talk about what scales we should play here. So I have prepared a little etude here. First off, we're just gonna play some scales. So the first chord is an E minor. And I was taught, I remember at Musicians Institute, they said that whenever you see a minor chord, you should play Dorian, or almost always. It's a Dorian scale choice. And I think that's incorrect, because most of the time when you see a minor chord, you're in a minor key. So if you're in E minor, you play E minor. And then there's a B7. I'm gonna play E minor, E harmonic minor, because we're only changing one note, that D sharp. But if I start on B, that creates the Phrygian dominant scale, or Mixolydian flat 2, flat 6. Or some people call it the fifth mode of harmonic minor, I guess. Then we have an E7, which is a secondary dominant to the A minor. So same thing there, we're gonna play in Phrygian dominant. And the A minor, that's the 4 chord in the key, so here we play Dorian. And then I'm gonna do the Barry Harris thing and ignore that A minor and play D7 over both of those two chords. So over the A minor 7 and the D7, I play D Mixolydian. Because A Dorian and D Mixolydian are the same scale. So it's almost like I'm separating that A minor in bar 9 there from the previous A minor. Those are two different kind of functions almost. And then over the G major, I play G major. As well as over the E minor, because those, again, same scale. Then we have A Dorian again. And then over the C7, which is a sub 5 going to the B, I play Lydian flat 7. To B dominant, Phrygian dominant. So the whole thing sounds like this. Then for the B minor 7 flat 5, I'm doing the Barry Harris thing again and ignoring it and thinking E7 over both of those two chords. So Phrygian dominant. Harmonic generalization, I've heard people call that. And then A Dorian again. Then F sharp 7, which is a dominant going to B7. I play Phrygian dominant. Notice that the F sharp 7 and the C7 are kind of the same chord. The sub 5, right? So it's only a different bass note, really. So of course there are other scale choices, but these scales I think are the kind of the default scales. So let me play the B section. Then when you have those scales under your fingers and in your system, try to improvise using those scales. when you arrive at the B section, that note, the F, kind of defines that moment in that, or that place in the tune. So you want to be aware of that. It's like the song takes a turn. There's a lot of tunes like that. I mean, Black Orpheus have that too. Like all of a sudden it's like. Also, I think I Got You Under My Skin has that kind of same thing where all of a sudden there's that flat 5 of a new kind of 2-5. I'm not saying you have to play that note every time, but you be aware of it because it's like a defining note of the shape of the song. Also, pay attention to voice leading when you play this. When you go from the B7 to the E7, you can find lines with smooth voice leading. Be aware of the 3rd and the 7th. The B7 to the E7. So the reason that I think they teach at MI the Dorian scale as the best choice for any minor chord, which I disagree with, is because then you get rid of that kind of funny avoid note. But there's another way to get rid of it. Just get rid of it. So we're gonna play 6-note scales, hexatonics, as we did in a previous video a few weeks back. So all I'm doing is getting rid of that flat 6. And I end up with that scale. And then I play a B altered scale. So I'm kind of assuming that you know what altered scales are here. But I'm also getting rid of one note. So I get a hexatonic. And if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about here, you can watch my previous video on hexatonics. But if you know your jazz theory, this is a B altered scale with no F. E altered with no B flat. And then A minor hexatonic. And if you watch that video, you remember you could do this for the 2-5. And then drop the E. Which gives you kind of a nice option to the altered scale. And then G major, hexatonic. A minor hexatonic. And then for this C7, I'm gonna think F sharp altered, because it's the same thing. And then play the altered scale from F sharp. But the altered hexatonic. B altered hexatonic. From the top. And then when you have those scales on your fingers, you can start to improvise with those scales. Remember from that previous video, there are all these licks you can use, right? Or the Crimea River. And so on. Now let's add some Barry Harris stuff into the mix. So I'm gonna think of the E minor as a minor diminished scale. So minor 6 diminished scale is what he calls it. So this is a E minor 6 chord with a diminished chord. So a diminished chord and then an E minor 6, diminished chord. So I can play a E minor 6 arpeggio. Over that chord. So some people are thinking, well, hey, wait, hang on a second. You just said that we shouldn't play the C sharp. This is not the same thing as Dorian. This is from another. This is something different. So bear with me. For the B7, we're gonna play a diminished chord. So when you're in a minor key, you think a diminished chord from the flat 9. So we have E minor 6, and then C diminished. A flat 9 from E is F, so F diminished. And A minor 6. And then we can go back to just improvising over the other chords. But let me just show you what that sounds like. So you can play those chords. So I've talked about that in a lot of videos, the Barry Harris scales. So this is a minor 6 diminished scale because it's a minor 6 chord combined with a diminished chord. And if you play it as a scale, it sounds like this. So it's like also known as a minor, melodic minor bob scale, but Barry Harris didn't think of it like that. And then you can play a diminished scale as in a half whole over the dominant chord. I prefer to start on the flat 9 here too, because then I get the chord tones on the strong beats and passing notes on weak beats. Because I think of the C as a chord tone here. The chord tones are actually the diminished chord, not the B. Same thing over E7, I start on F. And then A. So you could play it as a scale like that, or as arpeggios, right? So those are A minor 6 arpeggios alternating diminished arpeggios. So this is what Barry Harris talks about. So I have made videos about that before that you can check out. Do the Django Reinhardt thing. So starting on E minor. Diminished, E minor, Genius, right? So basically you're creating harmonic movement using that stuff. So the scales would sound like this. One thing I've noticed that a lot of gypsy jazz guitar players do, because I listen to a lot of gypsy jazz, when they play this over the B7, for example, they will play the diminished, but they will start on B, so the bass note would be the actual root, and then they would transition into the diminished arpeggio. And the E. So they will also surround the root like that. And here as well. So if I play over in that style, you could sound like something like. Django Reinhardt was a master at turning arpeggios into music, basically, just using ornamentation. Diminished arpeggios can sound a little contrived. It can sound like a little bit like you're, I don't know, like too patterny, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I think that was it. I hope you enjoyed that. A new tune for you to add to your repertoire if you didn't know it already. Menina Moca. So this is on my Patreon page, and thank you for your time and attention, and I shall see you next time.